IIA and some other fellows, the Sri Lankan guests have also joined us. So can you informally welcome everyone? Rekha ji, you are muted.
Yeah, Mr. Anuradha, Mr. Kirti, Shirley, Miss Shirley and Miss Upekha have joined us. We welcome you all.
Yeah, thank you. Welcome all of you.
Good afternoon to everyone. Pankaj ji.
Ashwini ji, have you joined? Yeah, you have joined.
Yes, I have
Can
joined.
we start? Yeah, can we start?
I think 3 minutes are there. 3 minutes are left.
Okay.
So shall
Okay,
we
fine.
wait for 3 minutes?
Right. Okay. Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
37 people has joined already, and I think within 10 minutes it will shoot up to 80, 85. अध्यक्ष जी नवनीत जी नहीं दिख रहे अभी।
नवनीत जी थोड़े समय बाद आएंगे, वो जैसे ही आएंगे मेरे ख्याल रजनीश जी से यार, रजनीश जी जैसे ही आपको पता लगे वो ज्वाइन करने वाले हैं बता दीजिएगा आप, क्योंकि उनके ऑफिस उनकी तरफ से ये इंफॉर्मेशन आई है कि वो ही इज विद सीएम एंड ही कैन ज्वाइन आफ्टर सम टाइम। तो अश्वनी जी उसमें ये कर लीजिएगा कि नंबर्स वो जो उनका बोलने का नंबर होगा उसको बाद में हम कर लेंगे।
जी मेरे ख्याल से now we should start. It is around 4 o'clock.
Sorry everybody. Shall we start now?
Yes, yes. Please, okay. Please go ahead.
Thank you.
Hello. Aji.
Friends, first of all, Jyotsna, I would like to request you to please mute every participant and just unmute our respected guests, our president, senior vice president, and our convener, Ms. Rekha Sharma, and rest all people, you please mute so that we can start the meeting.
Okay.
Friends, I welcome you all in this webinar of virtual discussion on India-Sri Lanka bilateral trade and investment. First of all, our chief guest, Mr. Navneet Sehgal, as our president informed, is not present here. So he is going to join very shortly. I welcome him as well. I welcome Ms. Upekha Samartunga, Minister Commercial High Commission of Sri Lanka, New Delhi. I welcome Mr. Sanjay Mohattala, Director General, Sri Lanka Board of Investment on investment opportunities in Sri Lanka. I welcome Mrs. Shile Javardhane, President, Federation of the Chamber of Commerce and Industries, Sri Lanka, FCCISL. on the current scenario of the international trade between Sri Lanka and India. She'll give her lecture on this subject, and then I heartily welcome Mr. Kirti Gunavardhane, business and investment opportunities in the printing industry. He's from the printing industry in Sri Lanka. Mr. Anuradha Jaisinghe, he is from the packaging industries from Sri Lanka. I welcome you all, our esteemed guests. So it's an opportunity for India and Sri Lanka, for IIA and FCCSIL, that we are going to introduce ourselves, and we hope that we'll start a good business between two countries, and we'll have a very warm and healthy relations between these two associations. So for the opening remark, I'd like to ask our president, Mr. Pankaj Gupta. So please, Pankajji, please come and give your opening remark.
Thank you, General Secretary Saab. Good afternoon and welcome all of you here. This virtual discussion on Sri Lanka bilateral trade and investment in India, Sri Lanka MSME Trade Connect, which is organized by Indian Industries Association and Sri Lankan High Commission. So this is my immense pleasure to welcome all of our distinguished guests from Sri Lanka. As our General Secretary welcome everybody by naming, but it is really our pleasure to welcome Ms. Upekha, who is Minister Commercial Commerce High Commission, Sri Lanka, and Director General, Sri Lankan Board of Investment. The other esteemed guests and speakers, and our counterpart, Shaileji. She is from Federation of Sri Lanka. So this is really glad to see all of you here in this webinar. And this is sometime, you see, we always find Sri Lanka is very close to us since long. So this is the time when we have to handle each other and start bilateral trade and commerce also. So I express my gratitude that you all took your valuable time and attended today's meeting with us. It's our good fortune that in today's meeting, we will strengthen our trade activity with a developing country like Sri Lanka. First of all, I would like to tell you something about IIA, our organization, Indian Industries Association. So this Indian Industries Association is an apex body of MSME. We are working since long, since 1985. This was established in 1985, and our headquarters is at Lucknow, UP, and national office is at Delhi. So since 35 years, we are catering our services to micro, small, and medium enterprises. As we know, the MSME has, backbone of all the economy of all the countries. So in India also, MSME, as you know, the numbers of MSME established here is 6.34 crores. And about 18 crores people are directly or indirectly associated with this segment, with this sector, in the form of employment, employer, and employee. So this is such a big sector, and I would like to tell you also about, you see, number of people, they are associated with us in different sectors, whether it is small, whether it is medium, they are working for the country. They are working in villages. They are working as a cottage industry. They are working as medium industries also. So this is the biggest segment where we can give the maximum employment of our country. And one more thing, we have contribution in GDP about 30% and about 45% in export also. So this much big sector is this. And that is why the government is also trying to support in all the areas to MSME today. Our Honorable Prime Minister, since long, since 4 to 5 years, he is trying to give a lot of incentives, a lot of support and a lot of policy reform to encourage people who can join MSMEs and can contribute to an Indian economy. One thing which I would like to tell you, IIA is playing very vital role to promote MSME, to develop MSME, and to cater the services. As I have told you earlier also, we have about 50 chapters in UP, Uttarakhand and Delhi. 53 chapter means 53 units. And this much big organization we have, and all the members of IIA are mostly they are manufacturing unit and service sectors unit. IIA is working exclusive for the promotion of development of MSME in India. IIA is active member of National Board of MSMEs, and there are several other units. QCI, Quality Council of India, then finances, then we have participation in several other big committees in Government of India and also state government. In state government, almost every council, which is very, very important council, or the high power committees we call them, IIA has the participation. That means our member goes there, we put our views there, we try to sort out the problems, we give them how to frame the policy, and if we suggest some policies or the way MSME can be promoted. So government always give very positive and you see the other type of attitude which encourages us. Our young entrepreneurs, they don't have much opportunities and services. Now they are becoming entrepreneurs. So for them, government has a separate policy. So that way, along with the government officials, we try to give them our suggestions to promote such things. I want to tell you a very specific thing, that recently, in view of the economic hardship caused by COVID-19, Indian government announced various schemes under Atmanirbhar Bharat, Self-Reliance India. This is initiative taken by the government, and you see, for the more support to MSME, Government of India taken lot of actions, lot of new schemes. So that way, I just wanted to tell you how important is this sector, and we belong to IIA, belong to this sector, and our all members who are here, I welcome them also. They are our friends, they are our entrepreneurs, and they are backbone of this country also. Now coming to the next point, the relationship between India and Sri Lanka. As we know, we are since very long, we are having a good bonding in the form of culture, intellectuals, religious and linguistic association. Both countries enjoy a strong economic and commercial partnership, with bilateral trade growing rapidly in the last decade and a number of leading Indian private sector companies investing in Sri Lanka. In order to enhance bilateral trade, India and Sri Lanka already signed an India-Sri Lankan Free Trade Agreement 28th December, if you remember it, 1998, which came into force in 1st March 2000. So on that basis, we have done a lot of work in bilateral trade. And this bilateral trade between India and Sri Lanka has increased by around 9 times between 2000 and 2019. So in this short period, the bonding between, or the bilateral relationship in trade and commerce, we have gone to such a big time. Bilateral trade between India and Sri Lanka amounted to $4.59 billion in 2019. In addition to being Sri Lanka's largest trade partner, India is also one of the largest contributors to foreign direct investment in Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka exports to India have increased substantially during past 18 years since 2000, when ISFTA came into the force. So this way, since long we are in association. If I talk about the investment are available in Sri Lanka in the area of petroleum, retail, IT, financing, services, real estate, telecommunication, hospitality, tourism and banking, and food processing, especially tea and fruit juice, metal industries, tire, cement, glass and glass manufacturing, infrastructure development, railway power and water supply, etc. According to the figure of Board of Investment for the year 2019, Indian investment amounted $139.1 million. Apart from growth in the trade and investment, India continued to be the largest source market tourists coming to the Sri Lanka. Now, you see, after this, such a strong trade relationship already we have. We want to move forward to a new partnership with new initiative, and we are confident that this association will be highly beneficial for entrepreneurs of both the countries. In the coming time, we will organize many such programs which will increase the competitiveness of entrepreneurs of both the countries. And an epidemic like COVID must have impact the economies of countries around the world today. But if all the countries work together in the event of this epidemic, then this situation can also be dealt with. We believe Sri Lanka is giving full cooperation to tackle the trade-related hurdles along with India and will do ahead. So these are the few words which I have spoken before our Sri Lankan representatives, and I feel really great pleasure to tell you that India is really has very good relation with Sri Lanka since long and want to continue it in future also. With this word, I am requesting my Sri Lankan representatives to put their views and their thought before us so that all the industrialists present here can take full advantage of this. And our Navneet Sehgalji is not here. He's Additional Chief Secretary, MSME and Export Promotion, Government of UP. He's shortly coming, as I have came to know. So when he comes, he will put the views of Government of UP and the views of government plan and policy to encourage MSME export promotion steps also. He will definitely give these points in his address. With this, I would extend my heartiest gratitude to all distinguished guests, esteemed speakers, and my friends. Thank you very much, and Jai Hind.
Thank you, Mr. President. Now, I'd like to request Ms. Rekha Sharma, co-chairperson, Export Committee of Indian Industries Association, to introduce our esteemed guests from Sri Lanka to all our members and our senior people, senior members. Please, Rekha ji, do come and introduce. You are mute. Please unmute yourself first of all, Rekha ji. Yes, it's okay.
Thank you very much, Ashwini ji. First of all, I would like to thank our president, Shri Pankaj ji, to give us permission to do this this virtual discussion, and a very big thank to Ms. Upekha. She is always there whenever we talk about business. She is always there to support any ways to promote bilateral trade between the countries. Thank you very much. I sincerely welcome Mr. Sanjay Mohtala ji, who is Director General of BOI. A short introduction I would like to give for all our Sri Lankan guests, because when we know each other better, then we can do a lot of work. So Mr. Sanjay Mohtala ji is Director General of Board of Investment of Sri Lanka, the investment promotion agency of Government of Sri Lanka. He holds a BSc in Electronic and Telecommunication Engineering, and also a management accountant. Additionally, he holds a post-graduation qualification in marketing, CIM UK. Mr. Mohtala flourishing completed his Master of Business Administration degree in entrepreneurship and strategy in UCLA Ederson School of Management. Mr. Mohtala has worked for Unilever Sri Lanka as a brand manager, and then joined the Boston Consulting Group, a leading global management consultant company, and served as a managing director and partner. Since March 2020, in addition to serving BOI, he also serves as a board member at Sri Lanka Airlines and EDB, and also part of Economic Revival Task Force in Sri Lanka. We have with us Ms. Upekha Samatunga. She is Minister Commercial at High Commission of Sri Lanka in India. She joined Department of Commerce in Sri Lanka, which is the focal point engaged in foreign trade policy and promotion of Sri Lanka export products. In 1988, as a public servant, possessed professional qualification in international trade. Till date, serve in 7 countries in capacity of a trade commissioner, promoting Sri Lanka's business interest and investment in India. She has done 2 assignments in Mumbai for 4 years, and in now Delhi in 3.5 years. We have with us Ms. Shirley Jayawardene ji. She is a long-standing and well-known chamber activist in Sri Lanka and also in the SAARC region. This is the time in the history of Federation of Chamber of Commerce and Industry of Sri Lanka, FCCSIL, which has established in 1973, a women entrepreneur takes over the presidency. She is also a vice chair at Sri Lanka chapter of SAARC, Council of Women Entrepreneurs, FEC, affiliated to SAARC Chamber of Commerce and Industry in Pakistan. She started her career as businesswoman and formed Media Vision Private Limited, published Candy News, the oldest regional newspaper in the island. At present, she functions as chairperson at Aglotech Trading Private Limited and Wisewell Lanka Private Limited, two global trading companies. She is based in USA. We have with us Mr. Kirti Gunawardane. He is from printing side. He represents FCCISL as vice president, and with us we have Miss Nilupul De Silva, director of BOI. Then we have with us Mr. Anuradha. He is also from printing and paper industry. We have decided we are planning to do a long-term investment and bilateral trade program with the printing and paper industry of Sri Lanka and India. So we have invited both of them to give their presentation on the present scenario of Sri Lankan printing and paper industry. That's all from my side. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Rekha. We are still waiting for our chief guest, Mr. Navneet Sehgal. So, in the meantime, I would like to request Ms. Upekha Samartunga, Minister Commercial, High Commission of Sri Lanka, New Delhi, for her presentation. Ms. Upekha Samartunga.
Unmute.
Yeah, she is.
Distinguished guests from Sri Lanka and India, esteemed speakers from India and Sri Lanka, distinguished members from the Indian Industries Association, ladies and gentlemen. Aibowan and Namaste. At the outset, let me thank the Indian Industries. Namaste. At the outset, let me thank the Indian Industries Association for arranging this virtual interaction today with the participation of the Federation of Chamber of Commerce and Industry of Sri Lanka and the Sri Lanka Board of Investment. Indian Industries Association being a business and industry oriented apex body with a membership of over 10,000, this is the most appropriate timing to engage in dialogue with focus on deepening business and investment ties between India and Sri Lanka, and also to explore opportunities for collaboration when economic recoveries have become a top priority for all nations, including Sri Lanka and India, following the severe climb of the global pandemic. Also, under the post-economic revival program, among others, the government of Sri Lanka focuses to uplift the domestic industries through joint collaboration and as well as to increase foreign direct investment flow to Sri Lanka. So as all of us know, India is one of our key markets as a trading partner, as well as a foreign investor. And also it generates a highest number of outbound tourism to Sri Lanka. Against this backdrop, I would say that Sri Lanka has to face challenges due to disruption in economy following pandemic situation in India as well as in Sri Lanka. Nevertheless, advanced technologies such as virtual platforms inspire both sides to adopt new and innovative approaches to do business without allowing various forms to constraints and hurdles to discourage us and hold us back. And I believe this is the time we should collaborate jointly to chart our way forward for mutual benefit. When we talk about bilateral relations, it is noted that business ties between Sri Lanka and India are rooted deep. It's linked with date backs to many millennia. In recent years, the relations of both countries reached upgraded proximity in keeping with India's neighborhood first and Act East policy. The existing relationship have elevated to a higher level for the benefit of both countries. The recent high-level virtual summit between the Prime Minister of India and the Prime Minister of Sri Lanka was held last month. That was on the 26th of September. And during the meeting, among important subject matters, two leaders agreed to facilitate and to enabling environment for trade and investment between the two countries, and to deepen integration of supply chains in the backdrop of the challenges posed by the pandemic. A little while ago, we were talking about the trade ties between the two countries. So we all know India and Sri Lanka were the first in the region to enter into a bilateral free trade agreement in March 2000. And since then, the bilateral trade has increased significantly. India accounts for almost 20% of total Sri Lankan imports, and India the third largest export destination for Sri Lanka. In 2019, Sri Lanka imported goods for the total value of $3.8 billion US, while exports to India represented $759 million US. For the year 2020, we have set a revised export target of $596 million US to India. Therefore, the trade balance has always been in favor of India. So we can bridge this deficit by increased Sri Lankan exports, fueled by a higher quantum of Indian investment to supply to the Indian market. We believe that this will be a win-win situation for both countries. To enlighten further, by entering into the FTA with India, Sri Lanka has been able to promote a diverse range of products. Especially, I'm talking here especially under the Indo-Sri Lanka Free Trade Agreement. Products such as spices, processed food, coconut-based products, furniture, apparel, rubber gloves, rubber tires, ceramic tableware, then the cosmetics. Those are few to name, which I could flag out as our exports under the FTA. Ladies and gentlemen, under the Indo-Sri Lanka Free Trade Agreement, duty-free market access is given to more than 4,500 HS product lines, following compliance of the rules of origin in the manufacturing process, which means the product should be wholly obtained or with a minimum of 35% value addition in the origin country. Therefore, it is evident that Sri Lanka can offer many more products at a competitive price in the Indian market under the free trade agreement, especially during post-pandemic era. Products such as processed vegetarian food, confectionery, value-added wellness products, printing, stationery and packaging, electronics, electronic and ICT products, few again to highlight. Further, with close proximity and also the regular connectivity by sea and air between Sri Lanka and the major metro cities in India, opportunities are more to explore further expanding bilateral ties. Now, at this time, when both our economies are faced with many challenges, we must explore the opportunities and the potential more than ever before to look for sustainable cooperation. Though targeted and strategic business and investment decisions that could help us maximize benefit to compliance. If you take Sri Lanka's market share in India, in the year 2019, it was around 0.21%. With those numbers, it is clear that exports from Sri Lanka will not be a challenge to the Indian domestic industry, but could be supplemented in the Indian industry and the value chain. Therefore, we seek the support of the Indian Industries Association to connect the Sri Lankan suppliers with potential importers and investors of your esteemed organization through virtual platforms to explore business and investment opportunities. The Sri Lanka High Commission in New Delhi is prepared to facilitate such initiatives. Before I conclude, I would like to highlight about the investment opportunities in Sri Lanka. As many leading Indian firms have already found out, Sri Lanka is a center point for investments in the region. Although Sri Lanka is a market of 21 million people, we are unique in that since we offer duty-free market as a gateway, not only to the Indian subcontinent, but also to affluent consumers in the European Union as well. This will clearly open up new opportunities for India, specifically for the members of the Indian Industries Association in the manufacturing and export segment, and other foreign investors who can locate their operations in Sri Lanka on a preferential basis and access the large market in India as well as the European market. We also have an FTA with Pakistan, and recently we concluded an FTA with Singapore. Sri Lanka is also negotiating a new comprehensive FTA with China and Thailand. So with preferential access to these markets, Sri Lanka will be well placed to act as a bridge for Indian investors seeking to penetrate the regional markets on a preferential basis. These FTAs with India, Singapore, China, and Pakistan will give companies located in Sri Lanka preferential access to a market of over 3 million consumers. So Director General of the Sri Lanka Board of Investment will be making a detailed presentation on the investment opportunities in Sri Lanka. In conclusion, I would like to highlight that according to the IMF, Indian economy is to contract by 10.3% in 2020 and expected to bounce back with 8.8% growth rate in 2021. I wish to emphasize that India and Sri Lanka, being neighbors, have so much in common in our culture, the language ties, religious links, which provide a foundation to build synergies and promote trade and investment links. Let these links be the gateway to our common prosperity. The potential is out there to be tapped, which would benefit both countries. I wish the Indian Industries Association to be the bridge between the businesses of the two countries. I once again thank the Indian Industries Association for organizing this virtual discussion. I am pleased to share further inputs during the Q&A session for any clarifications as well. Thank you so much. Namaste.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Namaste.
Ashwani
Thank you, Ms. Samartunga.
अश्वनी जी, श्री नवनीत सहगल जी।
हाँ सर, मुझे पता चल चुका। Friends, our chief guest and keynote speaker of today's virtual discussion, Mr. Navneet Sehgal, IAS Additional Chief Secretary, MSME and Export Promotion, Government of Uttar Pradesh, has joined us. I heartily welcome him in this virtual discussion. I thank him for sparing time from his busy schedule. I'd like to request Mr. Rajneesh Sethi to introduce today's keynote speaker, Mr. Navneet Sehgal, to the participants. Mr. Rajneesh Sethi, please.
Just wanted to confirm, sir didn't join yet. He will join after some time.
Oh, has not joined yet. Okay then, let's proceed further. We are still waiting for
are you able to hear us?
Yeah, I'm hearing you.
Yeah, so sir will join in 10 or 15 minutes. He's busy in some meeting. So once he come, I'll tell to join.
How does? Okay, no issues. we'll wait for him. And till then, I am just inviting Mr. Sanjay Mohattala, Director General, Sri Lankan Board of Investment and on investment, Board of Investment. He'll present today his views and opportunities on investment opportunities in Sri Lanka. So I request Mr. Sanjay Mohattala, please do come and address our participants. Mr. Sanjay Mohattala.
Thank you, Mr. Ashwani. Good afternoon, gentlemen, from the Indian Industries Association. Thanks for the opportunity for us to speak to you about the opportunities that Sri Lanka can offer to potential investors of Sri Lanka. So I have a small presentation for you all. Bear with me. I'll run through very quickly. As one of the speakers said earlier, of course, Sri Lanka and India are quite next to each other, but I would like to see more Indian investments in Sri Lanka, given the opportunities that Sri Lanka could offer to many of the gentlemen and the ladies around this table attending this session. Let me just start with, once we get the presentation up, just give me a second. Yeah, let me just start with the point of why Sri Lanka and why right now investing in Sri Lanka makes sense. Well, Sri Lanka House is a home for about 1,200 companies. In the last 5 years, we have attracted close to about $7 billion worth of investments. And we have an organization, which is the BOI, who's been spearheading investments into the country over the last 40 years. And meaning, even though we are an island, we're not been isolated. So we have a large amount of some of the best hotel chains investing in Sri Lanka, taking on our, capitalizing on our boom, tourism boom. Of course, due to COVID right now, we don't have much of a tourist arrivals. But if you look at the projects in the pipelines, we have already 5 global chains operating, and we have 2 more to operate in the near future. In terms of connectivity, in terms of whether it is mobile, whether it is the port connectivity, whether it is the type of industries that we have, whether it's on the software side or whether it is the known to be as the tire capital in the world, there are quite a few things that Sri Lanka is known for, and that's going to give you an opportunity for you to invest. One of the things that most of the investors that I have spoken to over the years talk about is the talent and the education, the quality of talent due to the education system that we have in Sri Lanka, where the junior education is mandatory for everyone. To couple to that, there's 15 universities, 19 higher education entities. That throws out close to about 30,000 graduates a year. And the government has a very concerted effort to increase the amount of these graduates, not just on the engineering and the computing side, but also the semi-skilled level through the vocational training institute. Beyond that, we have a very large pool of graduates or qualified people for accounting, CIMA. So we have a quite vibrant business process outsourcing business actually in Sri Lanka. In the ease of doing business, Sri Lanka is ranked number 2. And with the new government that came into power a couple of months ago, there's been a very concerted effort to push this and get to the top 50 in the next 3 years. So for this, one thing that the government's pushing is the digitization. So introduce a complete digital layer, just like what some of the activities that India is also trying to do, whether it is the ID card to transaction or to link all of the government entities together to really have a true one-stop shop in terms of service providing, whether it's for the investors or the local entities. So the ease of doing business is expected to go up in that regard. Then if you look at like our competitiveness point of view, we talked about the quality of the talent pool and the versatility of the talent pool. But in terms of the salaries that you would end up paying, you would have advantage even compared to India for the semi-skill to high-skill jobs that you want to do. And this is validated through studies done by JETRO and few other organizations. To give you an example, which is close to home, when HCL came to Sri Lanka, HCL came for two things. One is the talent pool, and also for the of course the bit of the salary arbitrage that they had. They initially came to establish 500 people operation in Sri Lanka. Now they have already committed within 2-3 months to expand it to 2,000 people, and the discussions are ongoing how to increase to 10,000 within the next 3 to 5 years. And that's the kind of the commitments some of the leading Indian companies have made to Sri Lanka because of the talent pool and the salary scales that's available in terms of getting you a cost advantage and also a good base to expand and develop disaster recovery kind of a center beyond the key cities in India. Well, we all talked about how we had contracted in during COVID time. Leading up to September, we had regained our exports. I think we had this is only BOI companies, but if you look at the entire country's exports, we almost had 3 months of $1 billion plus exports, which is much higher than our normal average. We are dealing with a small COVID outbreak right now. We're trying to curtail with some regional closures, and the government's expecting it to get it under control. If we didn't have it, we would have had probably close to $1.2 billion export months, ending this year with a positive GDP growth, where only a few countries could have been able to achieve. But I think right now the projections are possibly at a 0.5% negative, give or take. It depends on how quickly we stamp out the COVID outbreak. And also the speaker before me, Upeka, also spoke about the access to different markets. Of course, we have quite a bit of access to the key export markets that we have, which is Europe, US, Japan, and so on and so forth. In Europe, with the GSP Plus to the European Union, and so is for the US having the GSP Plus or the GSP. In addition, we have the free trade agreements, which allows easy goods movement between India, Pakistan, and Singapore. In India, in the case of India, there's almost 4,200 HS codes out of the 6,800, or give or take, are at almost zero tax with a value addition of 35% that needs to be made. So there's quite a bit of Indian companies who have made use of these provisions and have established export base here, Dabur being one of them, who had been actively expanding. And then for the investors, what is in for being in Sri Lanka? Of course, it's a quality of life. You could speak to your colleagues who have been investors here and probably been residents for a long time in Sri Lanka, whether it is the peacefulness, whether it is the quality of life, whether it is the access to the nightlife or activities that you want to do. I would say this is a miniature version of Sri Lanka, everything, miniature version of India put in Sri Lanka, where all the activities with the mountains, the beaches, the lush green forest that you look for, all packed into a small location with super connectivity, having 2 seaports, 3 international airports, which are going to be fully operational. And to support all that, we have a rapidly expanding express network. So expressway network, which connects most of our zones together. We have 13 zones in operation. We are planning to add 5 more zones in the next 3 years, which gives you specific investment opportunities, which we'll go into a little bit more detail afterwards. I think on the connectivity, if I touch the sea transport, being Sri Lanka, Colombo port being one of the largest transshipment port, I think we are on the first 25 ports. And there is, of course, additional capacity being planned. Of course, India companies are also part of it in the negotiations that's ongoing. With that, we have great access to both East Africa, Europe, US in a timely manner. And before post-COVID, I would say, provided impressive coverage of all the key Indian cities with quite a frequent travel, as well as the global destinations connecting through Europe to East US, East Coast US, and of course the West Coast US through Japan, and pretty much the number of flights throughout the world, given the attraction of tourists that we get from multiple parts of the world. If I touch quickly in terms of the zones, I'm not going to touch all the existing zones, but I'm going to touch about few of the opportunities that is in the horizon, which may interest most of y'all to take advantage of. One is pharmaceutical. So this is in line with the government's the mission to which they put out, Splendor Vistas. We are looking to localize some of our pharmaceutical needs. We have a local market of about $680 million, growing at about 5 to 8%. Along with that, we're looking at to say, like, can we localize 40% of our pharma production here? So this pharma zone that we're going to build in the Hambantota, which is marked on the south of the map, with the highway, it takes less than 2 hours to get there, give or take. And then, of course, you have the port access next to it. It's a 400-acre state-of-the-art, specially developed pharmaceutical zone, which will have pre-approval whether you want to do generics to APIs or oncology. And we will have pre-approval for the companies to come and start manufacturing from get-go. Of course, there will be a certain amount of incentive that will be offered with the budget. And we are looking to develop the zone and get the companies to manufacture or build their own factories from Q1 next year. The second one we are looking at is a textile zone. The textile zone is going to be in Eravur. It is in the west side of the country, where it will provide opportunity for our garment industries to localize portion of $2.5 billion to $3 billion worth of garments that's been imported every year. So again, this will be a zone dedicated for apparel and fabric manufacturing. And it will come with a sea outfall, which allows the dyeing operations and the textile related, the value-added activities to be conducted both for natural fibers and synthetic fibers. So this one, we have already conducted the environment studies. We already have about 8 investors, some of them being Indian. And the plots are being grabbed up very quickly. We have about close to 250 acres in the first phase, and the second phase will have another about 200 acres, which is in the development. So we will start this come January, and planning to have the first production output by October at the latest, and that's the timeline for that. So I think on the zone, just to give a quick input in terms of zone facilities, what we're trying to do is to make sure that there are certain common facility that is provided so that the investors' costs are reduced in terms of whether it is wastewater management or water purification, water repurposing, so on and so forth. And of course, you'll have the custom facilities that comes in being a bonded zone, and free health, some of the healthcare, banking facilities, and all those things will be built into the zone fabric. Then if I just change gears, talk about 2 of the sectors that we talked about and why it would be interesting for you all, and especially we talked about pharmaceutical. Given the trade tensions and of course post-COVID, the renormalization of the supply chains, there's quite a few pharma companies who are looking to expand out of India. That includes some of the large players in India, like Ciplas of the world, and of course quite a bit of the European manufacturers who are looking to come and set up in Sri Lanka. So we are welcoming joint ventures with you all. If there's any pharma related investors looking to set up a joint venture, we are most welcome to come and explore the opportunities in this zone. The key point here is to encourage them to export while providing certain amount of drugs for the local market, because our local market is smaller compared to India. But here the key objective is to export the quality drugs from here to Europe, part of Africa, and even in South Asia. And we would welcome people who already have FDA, EU GMP manufacturing qualifications, and on the higher end of the value development, value addition point of view, so that we can build whether it's molecular antibodies, whether it is antibiotics, whether it's vaccines, whether it is devices, that can be exported out of Sri Lanka. The second part of it, of course, I touched it, the textile and the apparel sector. What is there we are looking for is the high value added part of it. In addition, there are 3-4 sectors that might be interesting for you all, which is around rubber products, because utilizing sorry. So we're looking at like building a dedicated rubber zone, taking advantage of Sri Lanka's abundant rubber supply. We are already known for the solid tire capital in the world, having about 20% of 25 to 30% market share in the agriculture-based solid tires. We are about to sign and secure 2 more investments, close to about $500 million in value, which will give us close to $500 million in exports to be commenced shortly, and which will be online in a year and a half or so. Then, of course, agriculture and aquaculture is one big area that government is also pushing, and a large swath of land is being allocated for aquaculture point of view, given the focus in getting inclusive growth in the country. So those are some of the quick and I would say highlighted area where some of the investors on the call might be interested in considering Sri Lanka as your next investment destination. For the interest of time, I'll just cover very quickly a few things around the fiscal incentives point of view. In terms of, if you look at the tax right now, if you just come and set up a company in Sri Lanka and export majority of the products, the tax rate that you will enjoy would be 14%. That would be one of the lowest in this part of the world, including in India. But if you invest and build factories in certain zones, there would be a certain amount of tax breaks that would be provided. In addition, Sri Lanka offers 2 things. One is that strict intellectual property regime to make sure that your R&D and your intellectual property is guaranteed. We have 0 taxes when you repatriate your money and dividends being paid out. Of course, double taxation avoidance is bilateral treaties being signed up with 45 countries. In addition, I think if you invest into agro-farming and information technology and export services segments, there's anyway 0 taxes. These segments have been identified by government as trust sectors. One other additional way is that given the 100% deduction on the research and development and also the accelerated depreciation that's provided by or provided for the companies who are investing in Sri Lanka, you will virtually have 0 taxes for in the initial few years utilizing the accelerated depreciation that you are offered to or given. In terms of investing through BOI, there are of course 2 methods to do it, whether it's under Section 16, where basically we are facilitating the foreign investments to come in. Of course, you can do a new company through, set up a new company with a foreign shareholding. And of course, the transfer and the issuance of shares with existing and non-BOI companies are permitted under Section 16. Section 17 is where you get the, I would say the platinum package in terms of a BOI point of view. For this to qualify for Section 17, for certain businesses, there's a minimum threshold that's been put in to encourage the worthwhile for us to facilitate and also to make sure that the meaningful investments comes in. So infrastructure, which is the mixed development and housing and apartments, which is a very hot segment in Colombo and of course some of the other leading cities. So we start with the 5 million, of course, residential apartments comes to about 3 million. And the rest of it's a minimum threshold that's been put in, whether it's a hotel for tourism, whether it is a couple of cabanas that you're going to build to a large hotel. The thresholds are being set up to encourage small to medium enterprises also to come and invest in Sri Lanka. Then I think if you just skip through to the next slide, what you see is like if you look at the India, Sri Lanka, the FDIs that has come in, we talked, I think Upeka also talked about it. So I think 2018 being one of our best years in our partnership, We had close to $340 million worth of FDI that came in from India. Last year, it has gone down to about the average of about 139, 150 million that we have seen in the past couple of years. And I hope with some of the big commitments that have been done for this year, whether it's HCL, whether it is Airtel, and JJ Mills, who's looking to expand in Sri Lanka, and of course SIAT and a few others, we would see perhaps a higher number for this year and next year, given the amount of projects in the pipeline. Surely next year would be a blockbuster year, given how much SIAT, Airtel, HCL, and ITC is looking to invest. So let me just pause there and let you know again, in conclusion, that look, Sri Lanka is open to doing business, and we're welcoming all of you to come and explore the opportunities that is provided through the thrust sectors that the government's championing, of course, in addition to the multitude of, I would say, lucrative investment opportunities. Why is this lucrative is to take into account a macro view of where the country is trying to head with the new government and the new vision of the the president. We are looking to take out the impediments and achieve a sustained growth of about 6.5 to 7% GDP over the next 10 years. We are basically doubling our GDP. That means every 7 to 8 years in the coming years. So we are moving from a per capita of $4,000 per capita GDP to about $8,000 per capita. So that means our construction segment is going to be about 20% of our GDP. That's going to allow rapid development of infrastructure, whether it is office complexes, whether it is housing, whether it is infrastructure for road, rail, and so on and so forth. Along that, you will expand the access to multi parts of the country, enabling you to tap on a cheaper and more versatile labor force, and access to land banks, which you can use for whether it's agriculture, manufacturing, tourism, and so on and so forth. So as a country, I think we have had many challenges, and of course have bounced back much higher than many other countries have. So I would say the COVID is a small bump in the hole on the road, and we're going to recover much faster. Before this particular small outbreak, we've been had two and a half months or 3 months of zero COVID outbreak, and our death toll has been only 13. So I think as a country, we have shown we'll be resilient, and I would encourage all of you to look Sri Lanka favorably in terms of investments, and I warmly welcome you to come and consider to invest in Sri Lanka. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mohatalla. Thank you for your detailed presentation, and we can hope that this meeting of ours will certainly be a milestone in the bilateral relations and trade and investment and between Sri Lanka and India.
Sure.
Now, I'd like to request Ms. Shirley Javardhane, President, Federation of Chamber of Commerce and Industries, means our counterpart, Sri Lanka, FCCISL, on the she'll tell us on the current scenario of international trade between Sri Lanka and India. So I again request Ms. Shirley Javardhane to please come and present your presentation.
Thank you. Distinguished guests at the seminar discussion. And first I must thank the organizers for inviting me for this very important discussion. My topic is current scenario of international trade between Sri Lanka and India. 2 decades ago in 2000, Sri Lanka exported about $60 million worth of goods to India and imported $550 million worth. 18 years later, in 2019, Sri Lanka exported about $750 million worth of goods to India and imported $3,150 worth of goods. These two simple sets of figures reveal some important features in the trade between our two countries. First, the most positive feature is the sharp growth in trade in both directions. SL exports to India have risen nearly 13-fold, and India exports to Sri Lanka about 6-fold. That is not surprising because Sri Lanka's GDP grew 5-fold from $17 billion to 2000 to $84 billion in 2019. During the same 19 period, India GDP grew over 6-fold from $455 billion to $2.9 trillion. Both countries increased their capacity to export goods and to absorb import. That's real economic progress. We should be happy about it. But there's also a challenge to both countries that these figures reveal. In 2000, the trade balance was a negative $500 million against Sri Lanka. In 2019, the negative balance was $2,400 million. In 2019, Sri Lanka's trade deficit with China was nearly $3,800 million, which was about 60% higher than the deficit with India. The country's annual trade deficit has been around $8,000 billion since 2011. In most years, it has exceeded 10% of GDP, that is considerably unsustainable. It is clear from these numbers that much of the deficit arises from trade with China and India. I am not saying that there should be a perfect balance between import and export. It is very normal in international trade for the trade deficit with one country to be covered with a surplus with another. Sri Lanka large trade surpluses with USA and EU countries have helped cover a part of this deficit. The rest will be covered partly with loans, especially from China and also from India and other sources. This is not a sustainable economic model. The bitter truth is that country is now facing an enormous economic challenge. Between 2021 and 2025, Sri Lanka needs around $4,300 million each year to serve the foreign debt. This year, the three leading international credit rating agencies, Moody's, Fitch, and Standard & Poor's, downgraded Sri Lanka's sovereign debt, making it more expensive to borrow in foreign capital. Sri Lanka obviously has the main responsibility to find solution to these problems. The government has imposed import restriction, but that can only be a temporary measure. Going back to the pre-open market economy era of 2070 is also not very favorable, especially for the small middle income countries such as Sri Lanka. The country must rely on the global economy for markets, capital, and technology to economically prosper. This is where India can play a crucial role. India is the world's 5th largest economy with a gross national income of $2.9 trillion and accounts nearly 80% of the output in Asia. India and Sri Lanka have mutual interest to explore every possible avenue to help Sri Lanka's economy. I must stress that such help will also benefit India's national security interest in the region. Let me conclude my presentation by identifying few key areas that have significant potential for mutual cooperation that will benefit both countries. Let's take tourism. In the year 2000, about 32,000 Indian tourists visited Sri Lanka. That was about 8% of the 400,000 that visited the country. In 2018, over 2.0 million foreign tourists visited Sri Lanka. Of that number, Indians account for 4,250,000, that is 18%. Unfortunately, the Easter Sunday terrorist bombing in April 2019, followed by COVID pandemic, have caused a major setback to Sri Lanka's tourism industry. But sure, this is temporary. When the industry arrives, more Indian tourists can make a significant contribution to Sri Lanka's economy. Take trade. In 2019, about 65%, $500 million of Sri Lanka's exports to India came under the India-Sri Lanka Free Trade ISFTA agreement in 2000. That is a sustainable amount. The products exported included animal feed, spices, garments, and base metals. The South Asia Free Trade, that is agreement SAFTA, signed in 2006, accounted for a modest $56 million of Sri Lankan exports to in 2019. Desiccated coconut pepper were the main exports under the agreement, and the bulk of the exports went to India. We must confront the reality also. We talk a great deal about South Asia cooperation, but we need more action. For example, negotiations on the first and the second phase of the tariff liberalization program, TLP, have been ongoing since 2015. But for various reasons, I will not raise it here, it has become very difficult to have major trade and economic cooperation on a multilateral basis in South Asia and SAARC. But there is much more hope for such cooperation on a bilateral basis, which is what we are focusing on this evening. Sri Lanka and India are negotiating an economic and technology cooperation agreement that will replace 2000 ISFTA. And we must together lobby with the governments, our governments, to expedite this. And also, I must say, any agreements in Sri Lanka where the domestic business will also be protected, and this has to be done in a very sensible way. Take foreign investment from India. In 2019, Sri Lanka attracted about 1,200 million US in foreign direct investments, FDI. By today's global standards, that is a modest amount. Sri Lanka has the capacity to absorb a lot more FDI. The Central Bank of Sri Lanka, in its 2019 annual reports, listed India as one of the top 5 countries of FDI in 2019. That is good news. More Indian investment will help Sri Lanka to join the supply chain for Indian industries that can benefit both countries. Before I conclude, I also want to say Federation of Chamber of Commerce and Industries. We have 67 member chambers, which we also have over 50,000 business houses who are already into trade between Sri Lanka and India. Because before this COVID, we have been taking so many.
I request all participants to please. Okay. Just hold on, ma'am. Actually, you are muted. Miss. Yes. Okay. Now, please.
Was it right along?
Yes, you are right now. Hello.
What shall we do?
Please start. Please continue your speech.
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, it was not. It was not right along, Shirley. It happened now only. You can continue.
Just for a minute.
Yeah, maybe 1 minute. Just last minute or so.
Okay. I will. I was talking about the Federation of Chambers, where we are having about 67 member chambers. I'm thinking with the member chambers where we are having about 50,000 business houses. And before the COVID, we used to take, with the support of the Indian High Commission, we used to take trade delegations to India as buyers and as exhibitors. So once this COVID situation, I mean, I don't think it's going to last forever. We will be continuing with this, and we will be promoting trade between India and Sri Lanka in the future. So that's what I think that's okay. So I think that's okay.
Thank you, Shirley. Thank you very much.
Ma'am, I think you are somewhere confused. Actually, it was a technical problem.
I see.
So you please continue if you are you want to say something.
It's okay. I think he
If
said
it
it was the last.
No, actually,
meeting.
it's. I think you thought that it's done, but it's no. It
No, no,
was a
she has
technical problem
completed.
only.
Ashwini ji, she has completed. Now you can proceed.
Okay, if she has completed, then it's fine.
Yeah.
And if she wants to continue, she may.
Just for 10 minutes. Yeah. Okay. I had scheduled it for 10.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Javardhane. Thank you for your presentation. And now, from Indian Industries Association, I'd like to request our Senior Vice President, Mr. Manmohan Agrawal, please to come and address the participants. Mr. Manmohan Agrawal.
Thank you, Ashwini ji. First of all, good evening to everybody. Really, it is a great pleasure that we all are together in this virtual meet to take some impressive steps in a way to promote and grow the industries in both the countries. I want to present my gratitude to Sri Lankan dignitaries for providing and sharing their valuable thoughts, plans, initiatives, opportunities available in Sri Lanka for Indian businesses. This will really gives us a lot of hope and energy among us to reach your market and build healthy collaboration. If I am not wrong, Sri Lanka and India is sharing good trade relations since a very, very long time. Both the countries share a broad understanding of major issues of international interest. According to Sri Lankan custom, bilateral trade in 2018 amounted to 4.93 billion US dollar. Exports from India to Sri Lanka in 2018 were 4.16 billion US dollar, while export from Sri Lanka to India was only 767 million US dollar. So according to the latest free trade agreement signed between the two countries, over 4,000 items can be exported to Sri Lanka duty free. The major exports from India to Sri Lanka includes mineral fuels, oils, distillation products, vehicles other than railways, tramway, then iron and steel, salt, sulfur, earthstone, plaster, lime and cement, cereals, cotton and machineries, nuclear reactors, boilers, pharmaceutical products, knitted fabrics, and arms and ammunition, parts and accessories. There is extreme export potential in Sri Lanka from India in the commodities such as machineries, mechanical appliances, electrical equipments and parts, textiles, vehicles, aircraft, vessels, and base metals and articles thereof. There are in growing demand in Sri Lanka where India can boost its export capabilities. This shows how much trade trust continues between both the countries. To make our relations more powerful, Indian Industries Association and Federation of Chamber of Commerce and Industry of Sri Lanka, that is FCCISL, may join hands. Our president also just now made you aware about IIA, that how this association is working for the development of MSMEs in today's environment and extremely competitive industrial scenario. IIA is working for the sake of MSMEs since 1985, when it was called by the name of NIA, and now it is an apex representative body of MSMEs at the national level. I come to know that FCCISL has been playing a key role in promoting business and industry in Sri Lanka by providing the member bodies with a wide spectrum of services ranging from advisory, consultative, promotional, information sharing, and representative services. I feel happy to know that this Chamber of Commerce also awarded for the best unconventional project for MSMEs back to business for its outstanding achievements. If I am talking about MSMEs in India, they are employing over 11 crores workers, and MSMEs contribute around 29% of India's GDP and comprise about almost half of its export. MSMEs of Sri Lanka contribute 52% to the GDP and are considered as the backbone of the economy. In Sri Lanka, it is estimated that the MSMEs account for over 90% of the total enterprises in the non-agriculture sector and 45% of the total employment. In Sri Lanka, MSMEs are defined on the basis of number of employees and annual turnover. In India, as per the new definition, MSMEs are now defined based on their turnover. As per these data, we can see how MSMEs can be a more powerful sector by providing them full support. Definitely, they will come up with great success for the economy. IIA and FCCSIL jointly may also create some kind of a strong project and agreement for the development of MSMEs in both the countries by collaborating with each other. We may develop strong institutional trade and business to establish a sustainable mechanism of dialogue and platform for discussion with the sake of MSMEs. Also, we can start by opening a help desk of FCCSIL in India at IIA office and vice versa. Collaborations in some areas which we are expecting are these one. First of all, we expect the exchange of information on the rules and practices pertaining to trade and investment in both the countries. Next is trade and investment related promotional activities in India and Sri Lanka jointly we can do. Also, we can have the regional and intra-regional strategies and programs for the competitive development and internationalization of MSMEs and business creation. We can also jointly provide business development services for MSMEs, especially those relating to export marketing, including e-commerce, technology upgradation, joint venture, and other business financing and networking. We can also work on assisting each other in organizing business delegations, facilitating business interest. We can also work together by assisting each other in developing pilot projects for the MSME sector. We can also cooperate each other on all the programs of trade promotion and commercialization. And we can also work to assist each other by means of exchange, the visit of member companies and representations. So these are the some areas where we can jointly work together. So this virtual meet for MSME Trade Connect will definitely come with some positive solution and associations which may provide new hope for MSMEs so that they know how they can push their business boundaries in Sri Lanka and create a healthy trade relationship between both the countries. I hope FCCSIL may give us support for fulfilling these expectations. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Manmohan. And as you said rightly, we are hoping that FCCI and IIA will jointly will do some miracles for MSME, because in general MSMEs are not in bilateral business. So by shaking hand with FCCI Sri Lanka, we certainly will go for this, or I can say we can encash these opportunities. Now, I'd like to request Mr. Kirti Gunavardhane. He is from the printing industries in Sri Lanka, and he'll present regarding the printing industries in Sri Lanka and what are the investment opportunities there. So I again request Mr. Kirti Gunavardhane.
Thank you. Can you see my presentation?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Okay. So thank you very much for this opportunity created for us to talk to the Indian Industries Association. I think, you know, my job is becoming easy as we go on with the presentations. You know, many things discussed by many speakers before me has explained many areas. So let's start talking about, you know, what kind of things we can do together, especially in the printing industry. So I just thought, you know, while we are going on the presentations, you know, I just add this slide into my presentation. So this is something which all Indians and all Sri Lankans like, cricket. So if you want to do some bilateral or joint venture business, so both should be happy and both should have the benefits. I think how Sri Lankan printing industry, as good as cricket to all Indians and Sri Lankan is our challenge here. How to make both countries beneficial out of printing is the next challenge that we have to address. How to make printing a lucrative business for each other. So now, these three challenges, if you can meet, surely there is a profitable and potential business for each of us here. So as you know, Sri Lanka is a very diverse country. Since, you know, there is a forum that not only printing industry represent, it's all kinds of MSMEs are represented here. Therefore, I just add a few slides. You know, traditionally, if you go with the exports, you know, Sri Lanka is very good at tea, then the garments, then rubber products, gem and jewelry, spices, of course, you know, we have done a lot of upgrades, a lot of promotions, and, you know, Sri Lankan spices are in the world market has a very high demand. You know, this also one area which you can collaborate and work together. So another area which both our countries can go together is ICT and outsourcing. And when you go to non-traditional export area, so we can take printing industry and packaging industry there. Since my colleague is there to address the packaging, I will not talk much about that area. So let him speak about that. And, you know, I will just talk to you a few points for why Sri Lanka for printing and packaging. You know, these are what, you know, you should be looking at in case if you feel that you should go to Sri Lanka to invest, or you should have a joint venture, you should have a technical collaboration. All these are possibilities in Sri Lanka. So then the first question that you will have is why Sri Lanka for printing and packaging? Sri Lankan printing industry is you know, quite old. You know, we have started printing in Sri Lanka during the Dutch period. So we have few printing schools. Printing been over the years, it has improved. And since we had an early entry into printing, so we started all kinds of areas related in printing, offset and other technologies such as flexo, gravio, digital printing, all that is available in Sri Lanka. And as you know, Sri Lanka is a country which has a quite high level of education and high literacy level. And we have a pretty good infrastructure. And over the years, our infrastructure has improved a lot. And, you know, another area which we can, you know, talk here is the compliance and certifications. Now, most of the printing companies, especially the printing companies who's involved in export or large printing houses which cater the international businesses or other exporters. So they have got many kinds of compliances and certifications, and therefore they can cater to many markets. A part of local business, they are into export business as well. And Sri Lanka is a country which we have lobbied some time back to make the paper and the materials duty free. So it has been listened by the government and it has done. So therefore, any material can come in without duty to Sri Lanka. So this is a big advantage for any of the local printers or any other printer or a company wants to joint venture in Sri Lanka. So this is one of the key things when your material is duty free, so your cost is low, so then you can compete in the other markets. We will look at what we are good at. Especially if you take Sri Lanka, Sri Lanka is has a very good brand for tags and labels. If you take the tea tags and tea bags, we are the world's largest tea tag manufacturer. So you may be not knowing that even though being a small country, we do a lot of exports to other countries with regard to tags and labels, especially for the tea industry. And packaging, we are very good. And packaging, many companies here has a lot of compliances which they work with the world leaders on various areas, and they do printing and other laminates and value-added printing, stationery, private labels, and various other forms of printing. So Sri Lanka has established over the years, and now we have quite a mature market for these areas. And the other main thing why Sri Lanka is, as all you know, is the strategic location. So Sri Lanka is in the center of the Bay of Bengal, Indian Ocean. So therefore, almost all the sea routes have to pass Sri Lanka. And when you see the international competitiveness of Sri Lanka as a location, so we have studied this, when we are trying to do, when I was the president of the International Chamber of Commerce, we have been very much involved with the trade facilitation area. So there also we found Sri Lanka, location-wise, we are one of the best. So as a strategic location, and since Mr. Mohottala of BOI, he mentioned about the ports and what advantage we have, seaports and airports, he mentioned in his presentation. So therefore, I will not go into detail, but of course, having a small 65,000 square kilometers, we have many ports around us. So therefore, it's a very economical way of, transporting goods. And this is the one that I mentioned, that when we used to study the competitiveness of Sri Lanka, so we found we are one of the cheapest places for handling, shipping, and cargo and terminal handling. All these areas that we do much more competitive than any other country around us. And we realize there's a great possibility for a multi-country consolidation hub. Sri Lanka can act like that. So this is actually happening. The reason is Sri Lanka is ideally positioned to become an Indian Ocean logistic hub. The country has been also very successful in developing the transshipment business with majority of imports, exports to and from India currently passing via Colombo. And we have a quite high skill labor force, which, you know, the printing industry also becoming more and more modern. So therefore, you need to have good labor, knowledgeable labor to handle the state of art technologies. And we have, you know, a part of that IT. If you take the accountants, we produce the largest amount of SEMA accountants, chartered accountants in this part of the world. So that's also another big advantage for any industry who wants to relocate or start business in Sri Lanka, because you have the skills and the skillful people to run your businesses. This also, I will not speak much, you know, Mr. Mohotala covered this one, and, you know, we have special zones also to promote pharma and apparel and things like that, so which you mentioned. And infrastructure, few slides I have. So these are the new areas, or rather the new infrastructure which we are developing. So this also continuously developed, and, you know, there'll be less time to transport goods, transport from sea, air, or any other local transportation system. And when it comes to the trade facilitation, we have automated many processes. So therefore, that's also another big advantage for anyone who think of doing business in Sri Lanka. Then when it comes to this also being mentioned by Upekha also, so we are a country, you know, has a very good relationship with India. The present situation, if you take, you know, it is like India is the best friend to Sri Lanka, kind of a relationship which we maintain right now. India and Sri Lanka being the members of SAARC, and we've been working together for years, and, you know, we have always been very good cooperation. A part of SAARC, things like South Asia Association of Regional Cooperation and Environment Program, also we have been together. Why you need to look at Sri Lanka for investment? So this been well covered by Mr. Mohotala, so therefore I will not go into details. So one other area mentioned by many speakers, including my president, so a part of bilateral relationships, you know, we had the first free trade agreement with India, then we had another one with Pakistan. So all these initiatives can take you more advantage for you to do business in Sri Lanka. A part of that, we are a very good gateway to various other areas like Asia Pacific Trade Agreement we have in existence, and BIMSTEC. So therefore, you have a greater access to your business. And at last, I would like to mention, you know, again, you know, the other speakers also mentioned about this one. So we have the GSP Plus facility in US, Japan, Europe. So therefore, we have large potential and large number of items which is under here in Europe itself, 6,600 tariff line not used earlier being open at the last GSP plus qualification time. So therefore, there is a big advantage of, you know, working with Sri Lanka. So this is the last slide I would like to mention. This also been mentioned by Upekha and you know, the other speakers also. So we have a huge trade gap between Sri Lanka and India. I think, you know, by having more business, having more joint ventures in Sri Lanka, we'll have more opportunity to reach the export destinations from Sri Lanka, so which can broaden our trade deficit. And in the meantime, this will give benefits to both our countries. So let me conclude here. And if there are any questions, we'll take it up at the questions and answer session.
Thank you, Mr. Kirti Gunawardene. And now from printing industry to the packaging industry. From the packaging industry, Mr. Anuradha Jaisinghe is with us. And I would like to request Mr. Anuradha Jaisinghe to please come and present your presentation on the packaging industry.
Very good evening to all of you, ladies and gentlemen. I think on a Friday evening, it made me little nervous to go on speaking on hard facts. But I think most of the areas are covered. Let me talk on the missing points, few missing points. Sri Lanka is, first of all, we are very thankful to India for giving us Buddhism to Sri Lanka, right? So thank you, all of you gentlemen from India. And also, Sri Lanka is a country where you have a population of 21.5 million, and we have 23 million mobile connections. So that's the digital advancement and the mobile penetration that we have as a South Asian country. If you take the private sector in the country, almost 95% we use English as our working language. So I'm encouraging the Indian industrialists, as Kirti also mentioned here, the literacy rate and the ease of communication, ease of disseminating knowledge with the Sri Lankan knowledge worker. So this is something that all of us are proud of it, and this is demonstrated during the last, I would say, during the last 30 years. I think this came into light after the liberalization of our economy in 1978. As far as packaging is concerned, if you take sector-wise, if you take the corrugated packaging industry, we have about 28 players, and we have capacity, and we have extra capacity of about 50%. If you take flexible packaging, again we have something close to 45% extra capacity. So these are two large sectors, and we have another sector. If you take bottle manufacturing, let's say PET bottle manufacturing, again we have about 25% extra capacity. So I invite the users of packaging to make use of this extra capacity, at least to South Block of India. That's one. If you take the advancement in packaging, fraternity recently concluded packaging awards both in India and Sri Lanka. Let me give little parallelism. In India's star for packaging, there were 300 plus entries, whereas in Sri Lanka, for Lanka Star Awards, we have about 125 entries. So that shows where we stand as far as the maturity and the saturation of packaging fraternity. As far as the capacity and the backward integration is concerned, there are opportunities for potential investors in Sri Lanka in several sectors. If you take the petrochemical processing, or if you take the polymer film manufacturing, we don't have a single manufacturer for polyester. We don't have a single manufacturer for biaxially oriented polypropylene, and we don't have a petroleum processing plant in Sri Lanka. Now, these are three areas where investors could utilize Sri Lanka as a platform. What I'm saying is 90% of our present polyester films are being imported from India. And biaxially oriented polypropylene, of course, we have various suppliers, Korea, Malaysia, Indonesia. Indonesia is the largest supplier of BOPP to Sri Lanka. But we see that there is a growing trend. It is shifting to India also. It's a good sign. One specific reason is the quality is getting improved month by month in BOPP, somewhat similar to the offerings from Indonesia. So these are areas that someone can invest on. So this is one area that I encourage the Indian industrial friends to consider to come and relocate some of your facilities in Sri Lanka. If you take Colombo, one salient feature is Colombo is considered as the most, the best livable city in South Asia. So some of the Indian friends, of course, they love to be in Colombo, and also the accessibility to knowledge worker is available, and accessibility to international sea routes are available. And one of my Indian friend, of course, he looked for a relocation place in Colombo, assuring that 50% of his output goes back to India and balance 50% to other markets. That's the model that someone can look for. Sri Lanka has a small market. If you take polyester film, we have a market size of about 300 metric tons per month. So that works out to be about 3,600 metric tons per annum. BOPP is about 4,800 metric tons per annum. Those are the figures that I can give. So that's probably justifies one line, and part of that capacity can go back to India or to international market. So this is all what I can present you. So thank you very much for inviting me for this webinar, and all the best for a good weekend. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jaisinghe. Friends, it is very unfortunate, and we are sorry that our keynote speaker, chief guest today, Mr. Navneet Sehgal, as our president informed, he was busy with our chief minister, so he could not attend today's virtual talk. And now, just to summarize, before closing the session, I'd like to welcome Mr. Ajit Pereira, who is Secretary General and CEO of FCCI Sri Lanka. I think he's a very dynamic personality, as Ms. Rekha Sharma informed me, and we are eager to hear some words from Mr. Ajit Pereira as well. So I request Mr. Ajit, please do come and say a few words to the participants. Mr. Ajit Pereira. Ms. Rekha, if he is with us. Are you hearing me?
Yeah, just a moment, Ashwini ji. Let me check. Let me check whether he is there or not.
As you informed that he has joined us.
Yeah, yeah.
In the meantime, friends,
Yeah, he was there. He was there. I
request all the participants, if they are
I
having
guess
any
he
queries.
have left.
Yeah, he's not there now.
Okay.
I don't see him.
We are planning to place it in Oberoi, Chandigarh.
Yeah, he is not there.
Okay. So, I'd like to conduct question and answer hour. So, I request all the participants who want some queries, some suggestions, or some questions, please write in the chat box. In the meantime, first of all, I'd like to ask Ms. Preeti Bedi. She is having some query. So, Ms. Preeti Bedi, please to come and present your query.
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah. Actually, I have sent some samples to Sri Lanka, and I have been charged. The customer has been charged duty. So I want to know if there are any restrictions on that product. But I just got a response from the High Commission that I need to send the certificate of origin. So next time I'll take care of that.
Yes.
So.
What's your question, Ms. Bedi?
Yes. So my question was, in free trade, do we have to issue the certificate of origin every time we send the shipment?
Yes.
Yeah. Who will
You have to.
it?
Sure, sure.
What is your product, madam?
My product is herbal skincare products and teas.
Okay.
Yeah. So I just sent the sample shipment, and it is stuck because of these taxes which have to be paid by the customer. Okay. So I was little doubtful about this.
Because when you have the country of origin certificate only, they can identify you as an Indian producer, and you will come under the FTA also.
Sure. So next time I send that document.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gunawardhane. Thank you, Ms. Bedi.
Yeah. Okay, right.
Now,
Sumresh ji want to ask some question. Sumresh ji.
Yes, Mr. Gunawardhane. You must have seen in the developed countries also, they have abolished GSP system, and they have now come under REX. And we just have to mention the REX number on our invoice, and that is acceptable. Is that not accepted in Sri Lanka as well?
What is the product you're talking, sir?
No, I'm talking about the general products. I'm not talking about any particular product. I'm talking in the general way.
Yeah, but of course, but why we want the country of origin certificate is to identify which the country which it is produced.
Yes, in the REX system also, the code allotted, that's a global code, and that itself defines the country of origin. Still, it is required.
Still required, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sumresh. Thank you, Mr. Gunawardhane. Now, Mr. Rajiv Goyal.
Sir, how much packaging paper in corrugation box India contribute for the craft paper in import in Sri Lanka? Some figure do you have, sir?
Craft paper?
Yes, packaging corrugation boxes. How much percentage import from India and how much is other country, China or Korea? Or
Actually, so we do not have, as my friend, when he mentioned, Anuradha, he said, we have even large companies operating in this area and we have excess capacity. And most of the boxes being produced in Sri Lanka. And we are quite competitive
as
also.
I know, in Sri Lanka only,
No,
and I know in Sri Lanka only 3-4 paper mills are running. So I think most of the paper they are importing.
No, we do not have much craft paper manufacturing in Sri Lanka. We import paper mainly from China.
Yes.
China mainly, and even from India we import, and a few other countries also, places like Taiwan and all that, craft paper being supplied to Sri Lanka.
How we can reach the corrugation industry list of Sri Lanka?
Corrugation industry. You want the manufacturers, is it?
Maybe later on manufacture, but you said you have a excess capacity. We are paper manufacturer in India.
Actually, you can contact Anuradha. He put his email address here. He's from the packaging industry.
Okay.
He put the chat box, his email address, Anuradha Jayasinghe 303@gmail.com. You can send him a mail. He can send the details. I will also inform him.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Ritagya Kapoor is there. She also wants to ask some question. Oh, sorry, Mr. Ritagya. Sir, you are not audible. Mr. Kapoor, you are not audible.
Okay, am I now audible?
Yes, now you are.
Yeah, sir. Actually, I have been exporting to China a little bit, not much, but a little bit since past 1 year, and I have taken part in various exhibitions in China, only for the export purpose, not import. So I am into textiles like Lucknow chicken and other garments, and then perfume compounds, then essential oils. These are my field in which I expertise. So in what way can I get benefit from relating to Sri Lanka? Like what are the channels that like in China we used to go for exhibitions. Is there anything in Sri Lanka like this?
Yeah, we have a couple of exhibitions. Actually, if you drop a mail to our federation, so we can send you some details about the exhibitions taking place. But right now, due to the COVID situation, almost all the exhibitions is temporarily stopped. That's the situation. But of course, we can give you an update of all important exhibitions taking place in Sri Lanka. We can send you a list.
Okay, so can I get the email?
You can even email to me. I will just put it to the chat box.
Chat box. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Kapoor.
Thank you.
Dr. Rakesh L. from Bangalore, if he is there. Actually, he was having some query. Mr. Rakesh L. from Bangalore. I think he has left because not available in chat box as well. So friends, it was a brainstorming session today we had with you all people, and we got a lot of information regarding our neighboring country, Sri Lanka, how we can start a business, especially in printing and packaging industry. Now, I request Mr. Somnesh Agrawal, Chairperson, International Affairs and Export-Import Committee, IIA, for the vote of thanks. Please do come and present the vote of thanks.
Thank you, Ashwaniji. I, on behalf of all members of Indian Industries Association, would like to take this opportunity to thank Madam Upeka Samarutunga, Minister Commercial, High Commission of Sri Lanka to India, for being with us and apprising us about Sri Lanka policies and current trade progress during the years. I would also like to thank Shri Sanjay Mohotala, Director General Sri Lanka Board of Investment and Investment Opportunities in Sri Lanka for apprising us about foreign investment policy of Sri Lanka and the opportunities available there and the benefits we can get while extending our additional units into Sri Lanka. Many thanks to Ms. Shirley Javardhane, President, Federation of Chamber of Commerce and Industry Sri Lanka, who guided us on the current scenario and trade business between India and Sri Lanka business went up during the last 20 years. Shri Manmohan Agarwal ji is the Senior Vice President of our IIA family, and it is my privilege to give him special thanks for being with us today, which fortunately is a very special day for him. Not only a special day, but a busy day for him as well. Thanks to him, not only for joining us, but also apprising us about the existing trade between India and Sri Lanka and what all we can do for further increasing the business, which can be fruitful in expanding the business between Sri Lanka and India. We are thankful to Shri Anuradha Jaisinghe from Export Development Board of Sri Lanka for his valuable remarks about the trade between the two countries, especially the packaging industry. Printing industry is a big industry by itself in India as well as in Sri Lanka. And many thanks to Shri Kirti Gunawardhane for the valuable guidance given by him, not only about printing industry in Sri Lanka, but also throwing light on other sector as well, especially marine, which for sure I can say is an important hub for goods being exported from Mumbai, especially to the Far East, and at times the containers are transshipped to different destinations via Colombo. And I also thank him for responding to our queries, which I am sure will be helpful for our future trade. It is a very well-known fact that whenever one is in trouble, its neighbor is the first to come to its rescue. And further, our Prime Minister, Shri Narendra Bhai Modi ji, is always determined to build best relations with brothers of our neighboring countries. I would like to add that about 30% of our national GDP comes from MSME sector, whereas 55% of the total working entrepreneurs are from SMEs. Whereas employment is concerned, this sector generates about 60.45% of the total employment in urban area, whereas 48.1% of the total export account for MSMEs. I thank you all for accepting our request and sparing your valuable time for being with us and guiding us and our members, who comprise mainly from small and medium sector of our country. The guidance, how the trade between the two countries can be enhanced, how we in India and our brothers in our nearest neighbors can be benefited, and especially during the global crisis. Last but not the least, I would like to thank our Rekha Sharma ji as well, who was in regular contact with the officials of Sri Lanka High Commission and for arranging such a fantastic meeting. And I am not only hopeful, but confident that whenever we or any of our members would require any assistance in establishing business relations in Sri Lanka or establishing factories on other side, they would be very assistance to us in this matter. Thank you very much once again. Thanks a lot. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Somnaji. I think, President sir, would you like to say a few words?
Wants to say something.
Sir, you are mute. Sir, you are mute. Please unmute yourself.
I would say thank you to all guests, distinguished guests from Sri Lanka, from our association, other guests who are present here, and made this evening very, very successful at the meeting, which we have initiated under the banner of IIA and Sri Lankan High Commission. So I would like this should be continued as Mr. Sumnesh says. Rekha ji is always active in this field, and she is always trying to do the best for our members, because we are MSMEs. We don't have much knowledge of export. We don't have much exposure to the other countries. So this is the platform where we can get our product to display. As I have come to know that most of the exhibitions which can be displayed to our platform, then we can make the collaboration with chamber and we can organize this type of function at least in a year. Because you see, after this COVID, the challenges are so many, and we are trying to make challenges into opportunities. So this is one of the way how we can go for cope up with this type of problems nowadays which we are facing. So I really thank to all of you, all our chamber persons, because we are of the same type of family. We are counterpart of each other, and we can help each other. Our High Commission, she is also here, and definitely we will try to form a help desk here at our IIA office. We have office at Delhi also. This is our national office. So we can start this help desk at Delhi, and as well this can be done at Sri Lanka also. So with these few words, create such an environment so that we can help each other bilaterally. We can do some business. We can go. We can transfer our technology. We can transfer our heritage, which is already we are in touch with each other. So with these few words, of course, it is very unfortunate our additional Chief Secretary, Mr. Navneet Sehgal, could not attend this meeting. Otherwise, we wanted you to aware of those things which are really our government is doing. Because UP government is trying to do the best to make $1 trillion economy this year, I mean, in this 2-3 years. As our Prime Minister also declared, 5 trillion economy of India. So this we are trying, and that is why the environment has become very conducive for MSMEs. So Navneet ji would have been here, so he could have explained so many plans and policies, and how we are trying to, or the government is trying to export promotional activities. This is just it's an unfortunate part. But the entire program was very successful. I thank everybody. Thank you very well.
Thank you, Ankaji, and thank you, everybody.
Can I say something?
Yeah, please, ma'am.
Can I say something?
Yes, ma'am, please.
Can I say something?
Yes, go ahead, Shirley.
Yeah, no, because IIA, from IIA, Mr. Agravel came up with a proposal to work with the federation. So we would like to discuss on that. If you can send it to email or towards Rekha, you can coordinate. So we are interested in this.
Yeah, definitely.
Definitely. Definitely, and thank you very much.
Definitely, Shirley, we will take it forward, and we will be in touch. We will be in touch. We will take it further for the benefit of both the countries.
Right. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Upeka.
Namaskar. So much. Thank you.
Nice seeing you again. Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. All the best. Bye.
Thank you.
Stay safe.
Stay safe. Yes, you too.
Yeah. Stay safe. Yes.